So imagine this. Football has always loved outliers, but even outliers usually follow some kind of rule. Messi was tiny, so his balance and dribbling became otherworldly. Cristiano Ronaldo was tall and athletic, so he developed into a force of nature in the air and a machine of power. Peter Crouch was nearly 2 meters tall, so naturally he specialized in headers, knockdowns, and hold-up play. But Nick Woltemade? He ripped the rulebook apart. A 6'6" colossus with a size 50 boot who glides across the pitch with the ball stuck to his feet like a magician, leaving defenders tripping over themselves, shaking their heads asking, how is this even possible? That's why in Germany they call him Woltemessi. It isn't just a cute nickname, it's the only way to describe the paradox of what he does. He dribbles like a winger, he creates like an attacking midfielder, and yet he towers over everyone like a center back. He's not supposed to exist. He's the kind of player that looks like he was built in a lab for a video game, a footballing unicorn. But the story of how he got here isn't simple. It's full of setbacks, wrong turns, and moments when he looked destined to fade away before finally exploding into the spotlight. Woltemade was born in Bremen, and from the time he was just a kid, the city felt like his destiny. He joined Werder Bremen's academy at the age of 8, a local boy with dreams of wearing the green and white in front of the Weserstadion crowd. And almost immediately, he started putting up the kind of numbers that make coaches whisper about prodigy status. By the time he was captaining the under-17s, he racked up 26 goal contributions in just 24 matches. Think about that. A kid not even 18 yet, already outpacing players 2 years older than him, and doing it all while moving like a winger in a giant's body. Naturally, the hype exploded. Bremen fans, who had suffered years of mediocrity since the golden days of Miroslav Klose, Diego, and Mesut Ozil, began to dream. Maybe this was the boy who could restore them. The club fast-tracked him into first-team training, and though they hesitated to play him immediately, he kept teasing them with ridiculous performances in youth matches. Eventually, they couldn't resist. In February, in the chaos of the pandemic season, Werder Bremen head coach Florian Kohfeldt finally threw him into the starting 11. At just 17, Woltemade became the youngest player to ever wear Bremen's shirt in the Bundesliga, breaking a record that had stood for 41 years. It should have been the start of a fairy tale. Instead, it was the beginning of years of pain. In his first 5 appearances, Bremen lost every single game. He was thrown into a team spiraling toward relegation, and he couldn't do anything to stop the bleeding. Then came the injuries. A viral infection knocked him out for over a month, weakening him enough that when he returned, he tore a ligament and missed the rest of the season. By the time he was fit again, Werder Bremen had been relegated from the Bundesliga for the first time since 1980. Imagine that, the hometown wonder kid, expected to be the savior, instead watching helplessly from the sidelines as his boyhood club hit rock bottom. And when Bremen returned to the Bundesliga a season later, Woltemade was still stuck on the bench, barely playing, his development stalled. By the time he was 20, he had logged just 1% of the available minutes. 1%. The fans who once hailed him as the next big thing had started to forget his name. And so Bremen made a desperate decision. A loan. But not to another Bundesliga team, not even to the second division. No, they sent him to SV Elversberg, a club that had just been promoted to the 3rd tier of German football. For a player once hyped as the future of the national team, this looked like career suicide. One wrong move and he could vanish into obscurity forever, but instead of a death sentence, it became his resurrection. Elversberg, believe it or not, were no ordinary 3rd-tier side. They had already knocked Bayer Leverkusen out of the German Cup, and they were sitting near the top of the table when Woltemade arrived. At first, he couldn't even get into the starting 11. For 2 months, he rode the bench looking like yet another wasted talent. Then finally, he got his chance. Coming on as a substitute, he delivered a gorgeous assist. That one moment opened the door, and once it opened, he smashed it down. Over the next 7 games, Woltemade contributed to 11 goals. He scored screamers, chipped keepers, won penalties with his dribbling, and assisted teammates like a seasoned number 10. He went on to finish the season with 19 league goal contributions, plus another 7 in the Saarland Cup, including a man-of-the-match performance in the final. Suddenly, this forgotten giant was being called the best player in the division, winning player of the season with over 50% of the vote despite playing just 64% of the minutes. That loan didn't just save his career, it rebuilt his confidence and reminded everyone of his potential. And yet, when he returned to Bremen, the old problems came back. They didn't know what to do with him. Too tall to be a classic winger, too unorthodox to be a traditional striker. He was shuttled between positions, benched again, until finally, after 14 years with his boyhood club, Woltemade made the painful decision. He refused to renew his contract. It was a shocking move. A local boy walking away on a free transfer. But Woltemade knew he had to gamble. He knew if he stayed, he'd stagnate forever. And that's when Stuttgart came calling. For Stuttgart, it was almost too good to be true. They had just finished second in the Bundesliga, their best season in nearly 2 decades, but had lost their star striker Serhou Guirassy to Borussia Dortmund. They needed a miracle, but they weren't looking at Woltemade to provide it. They signed 2 strikers for big money, Deniz Undav and Ermedin Demirovic. Woltemade was supposed to be depth, nothing more. But sometimes, miracles sneak in through the back door. Woltemade didn't wait. In his first cup start, he scored. With the German under-21s, he delivered 4 contributions in 3 games. Back at Stuttgart, he started scoring in the Bundesliga too. The turning point came against Union Berlin when Stuttgart trailed at halftime. The coach threw Woltemade on, and in just 6 minutes he scored twice, first dribbling past the keeper, then finishing like Berbatov with ice in his veins. Suddenly, the backup striker was undroppable. By winter, only Harry Kane and Hugo Ekitike were scoring faster in Germany. Eurosport called him Musiala in the body of a basketball player. His teammates called him the 2-meter Messi. And for once, the hype was an exaggeration. By the end of the season, Woltemade had fired Stuttgart to their first trophy in 18 years, scored in every round of the German Cup, won Newcomer of the Year in the Bundesliga, and was being linked to Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. His numbers were outrageous. Touches in the box only rivaled by Mbappe and Salah, chance creation at the 95th percentile, and goal-scoring frequency higher than almost anyone under 22. He was no longer a curiosity. He was a weapon, and then came the under-21 Euros. If Woltemade had already been a paradox, here he became a nightmare. He scored hat-tricks, nutmegged entire defenses, chipped keepers, and ended the tournament as top scorer, averaging a contribution every 55 minutes. Germany finally whispered what they hadn't dared to say for years. Maybe, just maybe, they had found the heir to their legendary line of strikers: Seeler, Müller, Klinsmann, Klose. That was all Newcastle needed to hear. Desperate after selling Alexander Isak for a record fee, they shattered their transfer record and handed Stuttgart 90 million euros for Woltemade. Overnight, the boy who once couldn't score in 12 straight Bundesliga appearances had become one of the most expensive players in football. And so, here we are. A 6'6" unicorn dribbling like Messi, creating like Ozil, and redefining what a striker can be. But the question still lingers. Is Nick Woltemade the future of football's evolution, the first of a new prototype of giants who move like magicians? Or is he just an anomaly, a paradox that will one day break under the pressure of expectation? That is the mystery of Nick Woltemade.